Welcome to The Soul Space, the podcast that inspires you to discover your truth, ignite your passion, and align your life with the power of who you really are. I'm Georgia Rose Psychic Astrologer. I share the cosmic roadmap that guided me through astrology, tarot, and inner knowing into authentic living. I'm here to help you decode your soul's cosmic story, reconnect with your passion, and create the life you are meant to live. It all starts within, and it all starts now in the soul space. Hi, everybody. It's Georgia Rose from Zenkuda, and welcome to the Soul Space podcast. So tonight's a little different. I'm actually not on camera. I have an event, so I am pre-recording this, but it's a great show because tonight we're going to talk about the new moon in Libra. Now, the new moon in Libra has a lot of transits happening with it, so we're going to jump right in. But hopefully you'll understand everything that we're talking about. I'm going to try and make it not too terribly complicated, not that you can't understand, but simply that there's a lot going on in the zodiac right now. The new moon in Libra is something that I'm dubbing resetting the scales, because not only is the moon and the sun together in the sign of Libra, which is all about relationships, but there's also a lot of planets that are influencing this moon in many different ways that are kind of prompting us to set new boundaries and reevaluate the boundaries that are in place. And the focus is on relationships, of course, because Libra is all about relationships, our relationship with ourselves and the relationship with others as well. So let's get started. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the moon and the sun being in Libra together to begin with. And I'm also going to tell you about the planets and what they have in store as far as a reality check that's kind of coming in for us. So the first thing I want to talk about is this new moon is happening. You can see right here in this area of the chart, we have the moon and the sun at exactly 28 degrees of Libra. This is going to happen on October 21st, which is Tuesday. Depending on where you live, it's going to happen either in the morning or very, very early, or, around 9 a.m. where I live here in New York area. But this just shows you the basics of what's going on with the moon and the sun together in the sign of Libra. The moon always is representative of our emotions and our expectations. And with the sun there, the two biggest luminaries in the sky are highlighting each other. The sun is our life force. It's our driver, as we like to say. It's our ambition. And so with both of the biggest luminaries in the sky in the sign of Libra, which is all about relationships, well, it's kind of a sacred invitation to reset the scales in our relationship, our inner world, and our soul contracts. So this particular cosmic episode is also making a conversation with the planet of Neptune, which is right here at 0 degrees of Aries, headed back to Pisces, which we'll talk about in a little bit later in the broadcast, and also Saturn right here, which is now in Pisces at 26 degrees. So this is an opposition. Oppositions are usually situations of tension, but they happen in order for us to have some kind of tension caused in our life that forces us to resolve or become awakened to new perspectives. And the other very important thing of why I really believe this is a reset in a lot of our relationships, because this is the relationship area going on here in Libra. The sun and the moon are in the final almost degrees of Libra. They're at 28 degrees. There's only 30 degrees in each sign. The day after this new moon, and actually in some places, depending on what time it occurs, later in the day of this new moon, the moon moves into Scorpio, and the energy changes a lot. You've probably been feeling over the weekend a lot of intensity with relationships, a desire for clarity, maybe a desire to renegotiate some things. That is going to continue up until Tuesday, and then all of a sudden things are going to shift when planets start to go into Scorpio, especially because we have the Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio at 20 degrees. So we'll talk about that too in this broadcast. But this opposition is one of the major conversations that the zodiac is having right now. And this sun and moon in the relationship sector of our charts, wherever that is for you, whatever house, wherever Libra is having a conversation of tension with Neptune, which is almost going back to Pisces. It actually goes back into Pisces. the day after this new moon, just like the planet, the moon switches to Scorpio. So right after the new moon, we have a lot of new energy coming in. So something happens with relationships, we reevaluate, or maybe there's a disruption that is put in place to cause something to really have to be looked at and awakened. And then right after that, the energy changes. So with the moon and sun opposing Neptune, what this can be is the reality check. This is where something's going to come in that is going to force you to look at the truth, not the illusion that you've been seeing. Saturn gives us a really great way to grow and to be able to allow ourselves to have more stability in our life, because Saturn is the structure. When the moon and the sun are opposing Saturn, it can mean sometimes limitations. It can also be that we are more forceful in our resisting limitations and breaking through constructs and conditioning that we've had in our life. We're no longer looking to have the same old relationship we used to have. We're looking to reset the scales. So disruptions may be necessary for balance, especially, and I hope I spelled necessary right. If I didn't, you all can comment below. But we've got this sun and moon right here in Libra, bringing up everything about, relationships and balance and equality and justice in relationships. It's ruled by Venus, which is a very important planet in our charts and is also in Libra right now. So we've got some really big amplified Venus energy, the things we love, where we find harmony, what is really valuable to us in our life, what's really deeply meaningful in our heart space. Those are the type of things that are going to come up and be disrupted in this energy in order for us to have to balance them. The opposition that you see here with Neptune and Saturn, once again, like I just said, is going to bring some disruption. Maybe we have a limitation in a relationship and we finally see it. Whereas before we were just going along with it, or we were under the illusion that it was really what we wanted and we were lucky to have it. But now all of a sudden we woke up and we're like, it's a little restricting, or maybe it's just a little bit not enough, not as fulfilling as I need it to be. And we talked about that a lot in our last program, about handing someone the crown and assigning qualities to somebody that they really haven't earned or shown us. We keep editing the story that's real. Well, now this planet Pluto is direct, and it's also having a conversation with this new moon. And so Pluto going direct means everything that's been occurring since January, when Pluto first went into Aquarius, it shifted things. That was January 2025. And then it went retrograde somewhere around the end of February, beginning of March. And Pluto in retrograde slowed things down. We were very deeply going within ourselves, and we were seeing things and things were being revealed, but we weren't changing anything or taking action on it. Now Pluto's direct in Aquarius, which is all about being individual, what, really we want to do as far as our own personal choices, exercising our right to be different. And it's having a conversation with the sun and the moon in Libra all about relationships. So this conversation is now moving forward. For the last several months, that's been a conversation with the sign of Libra, where it's been a conversation that hasn't really moved us forward. Now it moves us forward. We can't tolerate the intolerable. We don't want to live in the almost or the maybes or the energy that doesn't allow us to truly fulfill our desire anymore. So between the opposition to Neptune and Saturn, we can find some emotional intensity, especially with Pluto in the mix. So we're going to find with this axis, Libra, and the Aries axis here, which is where Neptune is right now, but headed back to Pisces, this area here. This axis with Pluto involved is going to give us emotional intensity. It's going to give us a desire for connection, but it's desire for connection that's very deeply soulful. It's not like, oh, I just want to be with somebody because I'm lonely or I want a companion. This is deep, fulfilling, soulful love, because Venus is also in Libra, and that's home in its ruling sign. So it's really a passionate and compassionate energy. Then the other things that we have, look at this chart, and this is all happening at the new moon. So we've got the moon and the sun here. That's why it's a new moon. They're together in Libra, highlighting relationships. Libra is ruled by Venus, which is also in this sign, amplifying all this energy. What do I truly desire? What does my soul really need in order to evolve from a relationship? How do I configure myself? Libra in astrology, especially evolutionary astrology, which I practice, is all about how we configure ourselves in relationship and how we relate to everything in the world, take in that relationship, develop and evolve from that relationship, and then bring it within to ourselves to be developed and evolved, and then we bring it back out. That's connection, right? We meet people, we take in what they're giving, we give them something, they take from us. We configure ourselves through our relationships. And that's what Pluto is really highlighting in this energy here, in a sign of Aquarius, which is all about specifically what's individual for you. You're not looking to conform and go with the norm. Maybe the normal relationship, quote unquote, that you've been in for a long time really isn't the relationship you want. Maybe you want something more expansive or more unique and avant-garde. That's all going to come up in this energy. Because this yellow lines here, which I put in, and forming a T-square, is this moon and sun, the new moon, talking to Jupiter, which expands everything, and Pluto, which is intense desire. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is that the moon now is squaring Jupiter and Pluto. When Jupiter squares the moon, or the moon squares Jupiter, either way, what happens is our expectations are inflated. Jupiter expands everything that it comes in contact with. And right now it's coming in contact and having a conversation with Pluto in opposition, right? Which means that our desires are being expanded. Our soul is being expanded. Our emotions are being expanded to show us clarity and truth. But we're still a little bit in illusion. Those illusions will break after the new moon on the 22nd, when Neptune goes back into Pisces. It's going to clean up the debris from the last 7 years that maybe we didn't see things as clear as we're going to be seeing them after this new moon. So getting back to the T-square, this is a conversation of tension. And what it's saying is the amplification that Jupiter is giving us of our expectations, of our emotion, of our deep, heartfelt desire. How do we want to be nurtured? What do we need from a relationship? What kind of person do we want to nurture? Because it's all in Cancer. And Cancer is the sign of the heart. It's also the sign of the moon. So it's amplifying this moon energy and the emotions that are tangled up in it. So we're going to have a big case of the feels. You've probably been feeling them since Saturday and Sunday and Monday and into Tuesday. It will lighten up and switch after the new moon, later on Tuesday into Wednesday, when the moon goes into Scorpio. But for now, Jupiter's coming in, talking to the moon and saying, I am your heart. What do you desire? Are your relationships fulfilling your heart? Why is your heart breaking? Why do you feel pain in this relationship? What are you missing? What does your heart desire? And then Pluto's coming in this T-square here, and it's saying, what does your soul desire? Why are you denying your soul its true need? Why are you staying someplace maybe that isn't fulfilling for you? Or why are you having such intense emotions? Because these emotions are meant to be a metamorphosis to bring you to transformation, to let you see clarity and truth so that your heart and your soul, heart, Jupiter in Cancer, soul, Pluto, are talking to the new moon in Libra, relationships. Venus, what do we desire, ruling the new moon, and saying, there's truth around words. There's truth around the words you tell yourself. There's truth around what you really desire in your most private moments, in your inner landscape, in the most vulnerable place that we have. What do you truly desire? What are you truly looking for? And are the relationships that you have with others and also with yourself fulfilling that for you. Big metamorphosis with this new moon. And then we have Mars conjuncting Mercury in Scorpio. So we've got all that T-square happening. We've got all these things happening with the new moon. And then where I have this yellow circle here is where Mercury and Mars are in conjunction, which is what we say when two planets are together on top of each other. And Mercury and Mars are very interesting when they come together, because when Mercury and Mars come together, what happens is our mind meets our aspiration, our assertiveness. We become very assertive. We start to be very assertive with words. And, Mercury is communication. So Mars is like driving us to communicate. It's almost like we can no longer hold our tongue. We have to speak about what really is making us feel inadequate or feel like we need more. That's how I'm going to say it. Like we need more. So, as Libra brings us through this soul's karmic journey, which is what it's really doing at this new moon, Libra is an energy that wants us to discover ourselves through others. And so when Mars and Mercury are conjunct in Scorpio in a Libra new moon, it's going to want to reveal things that maybe we haven't said before. We're going to be very assertive about our truth-telling. We're going to want to have those really deep conversations, those scorpionic type of things that make us feel vulnerable, but yet connected. Like this is the soul's desire for connection with Mars and Mercury and Scorpio. We want that deep, juicy, spiritual, deeply spiritual type of connection. And so we're in this realignment phase looking for that. And this, where I have this yellow circle where Mercury and Mars are, that's kind of like where our mind comes into play with it all and our assertion of what we want to do. It's not about the emotion in this part of the chart. Now it becomes about what do I have to do to get that soulful and heartfelt desire that I really want. This is a very deep, soulful new moon because it's about relationship and the T-square that the moon has with Pluto and Jupiter. It almost brings in like a Scorpio type energy because Pluto rules Scorpio. And we've got Mercury and Mars there wanting us to communicate in a very deep, soulful way. So these are very powerful days for words and conversations and deeply felt, soulful expressions. It can also be that hidden things are really revealed. On a global scale, don't be surprised if you find that, in the news, there's some things that are come out that are very deeply spiritual, deeply about belief systems, and that break apart illusions that maybe we've had. When Mars and Mercury come together, especially in a sign like Scorpio, which wants to dig deep and wants to reveal things, Scorpio wants to dig in the dirt, the scorpion, and bring something of value up. It wants to redeem things. It can also be very obsessive and jealous, and you'll find a lot of that going on with this new moon. But Mercury and Mars will call you to speak your truth in Scorpio. And you're going to speak your truth even if it disrupts harmony, because it's about karmically having that disruption happen in order to find the harmony, if that makes sense. It's like, sometimes you have to scramble the eggs in order to eat them, heat them up, right? Make them nutritious, make them nourishing. So don't be afraid if, you really need to tell someone that you have to release something on a very soulful, significant level. If you feel drawn to do that, just always respond with love and know that you want to make sure that you're not coming out in anger or possessiveness or jealousy, because the scorpion does have that stinger. And it's a very powerful day for words, and those words can come out before you really think that you're going to even say it. And the next thing you know, you've hurt someone or hurt a relationship that you didn't mean to. This is also with these planets. We're talking about Pluto right now, Jupiter, T-squaring the sun and the moon, and this area here of Mercury and Mars. This is also an area where you're really going to want to renegotiate things, whether that's in your relationship sector or with yourself. Like you might find yourself bargaining with yourself about things like, oh, if I do this, I'll let myself have this. It's that type of an energy because you want to get to the root of something. And that's what we're all trying to do here, is really get to the root of something. And we have a deep desire in this energy to reconnect, but that might not be in the relationships that we're currently in. Neptune is going retrograde. This is this violet colored planet right here. It's at 0 degrees of Aries, headed back to Pisces the day after this eclipse. The day after this new moon, I'm sorry. So what's going to happen there when Neptune goes back to Pisces is a lot of things that happened during those Pisces years, which was, 7, 8 years. A lot of things that happened during those years are going to come back up. They're going to bubble up like a little bubble from the pond. And you're going to be thinking about those with a lot more clarity because now you have the energy of when Neptune was in Aries before it went retrograde. And it'll be in Pisces for a little bit of time, but when it heads back to Aries, all the resolutions come. But when it's returning back to Pisces, it'll bring back some of those situations that we were in long term or 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And what we're going to find is history repeats. Things get revealed. We really want to see the truth in this. And we see that although we have been an illusion maybe, and we've been telling ourselves that things have changed, and this is good, and we can accept these things. And it can be a business partnership, a friendship, a relationship in the family. It doesn't mean it's all romantic with partnerships. But now we're going to start to get to a point where we're like, yeah, I think I may have been gaslighting myself. This is something I really need to look at. If I stay in this place, does my soul really have what it needs to evolve? And so in that sense, this new moon really activates karma. And it activates karma because Jupiter, this planet right down here, which we're talking about having that T-square, like I showed you in this particular formation, the T-square is here, right? Jupiter and Pluto are in the T-square with the sun and moon. But what we also have is Jupiter is also having a conversation, not just with Saturn and Neptune, but also with Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And that brings in the karma. This is about deeply healing wounds, having to do with boundaries, having to do with holding ourselves back, accepting less than what we deserve, and telling ourselves that we better take it because if we don't, then we may get nothing. And I recently realized several months ago when I was in a process where I was being regressed that in my own childhood, I was taught accepting not enough was the right thing. Because I lived in a home where if you complained about something or, like say I complained about dinner or I didn't like dinner, then the plate was taken away from me and I went without dinner. I can remember one time wanting this beautiful blue maxi coat. Everyone had long coats and we went to private school with uniforms, so we didn't get to express ourselves with clothing. Pluto in Aquarius wants us to completely express ourselves. So that's why we're in a place now in the world where everyone is expressing themselves in very unique ways. So I wanted this coat when I was like about 12 in 6th grade. And my mother finally bought it for me and I felt so special. She brought me to this special, beautiful department store, which we almost never got to go to because we didn't really have a lot of money. And she bought me this beautiful coat and I just loved it so much. And I remember complaining one day about something, not the coat. I loved the coat. I remember going to school and everyone was telling me how beautiful my coat was. And I complained about something, or I was just having, a preteen little speed bump like you all know who live with preteens do. And my mother got so mad at me, she cut up my maxi coat, the beautiful blue coat that she bought me. I was standing at the top of the stairs in my room. I had been crying about something or other that happened at school that day. And she stood at the bottom of the stairs and took a huge pinking shears and cut the coat up. So I was taught at a very young age to accept something even if it wasn't enough, or something would happen and you'd have it taken away, or you'd end up with nothing. And so for me, that became a pattern in my life, a Libra complex, so to speak, that I ran, because in configuring myself through the other, I knew enough not to ask for what I really wanted because something bad was probably going to happen. And it also taught me that I didn't deserve things. It taught me that I didn't deserve the love that I wanted or to be treated the way I wanted, and just take what you get because you can end up with nothing. And those are the type of constructs that we run, Libra constructs, the way we configure ourselves through relationships. So ask yourself, what are the things that my soul is really craving? And what are the things that I've been denying my soul all of these years as well? Because in this energy, Pluto, which is our soul's desire, and Jupiter, which is our heart's desire in Cancer, is going to really bring to the surface those things that we need in order to be in alignment with what we really want. And so, I can look back now and understand my own mom getting so frustrated with a pre-teenager that she did something that some would say was spiteful. But in her mind, she was trying to teach me not to be ungrateful. But instead, the lesson that I processed through my own karmic imprint was just take whatever they give you, even if it's something less than what you desire and deserve. Otherwise, you're going to lose what you have. And so here I was as a child emoting, wanting someone to care for me because I had something happen at school. And instead I was punished. So that also taught me to hold back emotion. And so I'm relaying these personal experiences here, not, to gain any kind of sympathy. It's really not my intention. I'm really just kind of stating them matter-of-factly because these are the type of wounds that are going to come up for all of us in this energy that we really need to resolve and integrate into our lives now by healing ourselves. And that's what this planet Chiron here, this green planet, is really all about, is healing the wounds we're bringing karmically. It's having a conversation with Jupiter in Cancer, and it's bringing those feels, those heartfelt things, like I call our spidey senses and our feels, to places that maybe in the past we really didn't want to look at. And now in this new moon, we look at them, hidden things are revealed, and it's a very assertive time for truth-telling. And we're not just going to want to think about these memories and these things that will help us grow our souls. Remember, the disruptions have a reason to bring us to harmony through their clarity. But it's also so that we can tell someone what happened to us. Like I just mentioned the story about the coat. That's probably was something up until a couple of years ago that I kept inside me. I didn't even know it was there, and it was a lesson for me in nurturing myself, treating myself with respect, and in my relationship with myself. How do I, in my own speaking and my own interaction with Georgia, how do I form a relationship and configure myself in that most private, most deepest space? Because Cancer is an energy where Jupiter is and is expanding the Cancerian energy of our deepest, most vulnerable inner place, that mushy, gooey center that we really don't want a lot of people to see. In this new moon, we have to take the risk and we have to be vulnerable and show it if we're ever going to have our needs met in the way we want them to be met. And the lesson isn't necessarily the outcome of those conversations or those situations. The lesson is in allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, and in doing so, it's the only chance we have to truly expand love. And Jupiter in Cancer wants us to expand love. Pluto in Aquarius wants us to expand our own unique desires. And they're both all talking to this new moon and sun in Libra, which is about relationships. So then we have the Jupiter trine Saturn, which is a very stabilizing force. It can bring growth and clarity if you stay grounded. Jupiter is an energy that wants to expand like the Macy's Day Parade. It just wants to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But with Saturn there, it actually gives us the structure we need not to get so big we burst, not to be so indulgent that we make ourselves sick, not to be so overindulgent in our illusions, Neptune going into Pisces, that we don't stay grounded enough to see truth. I went to the Arboretum the other day by my house, beautiful forest and farms and trees, and I just sat there and made sure that I felt my feet on the ground and the sun grounding me into the earth. Those are the kind of things you want to do in this new moon. Also, in this grounding, the reason why you want to do it is because, like we said, this is a very powerful day for words. Day before and day after, I would say from the 18th to the 22nd. Very powerful words. And you want to stay grounded so that your words have love behind them, that they're not just powerful to shake something up or in anger, but that they're motivated by beautiful, loving words and your true desire of your heart and soul. And then the day after this new moon, Neptune returns to Pisces. Neptune returning to Pisces breaks through all the illusions that we had in the beginning of the year. And I want to talk about that for a minute. In the beginning of the year, in the beginning of the year, Pluto went into Aquarius, and Saturn and Neptune went into Aries. We started to get clarity on situations. The intolerable became intolerable. The things that we tolerated in the past, we suddenly could not tolerate. Think really long and hard about where you were last January, February, because that is what is repeating now. It's an energy that is repeating in order for us to take the clarity that we now see in this new energy, in this new moon, and bring it forward for us so that we can now understand what our actions really have to be. There's something that's been in play since like January, end of February, March, that is now bubbling up to the surface. Except the difference is now we've got Pluto asking us what our soul desire is, and Jupiter in Cancer saying, what is your heart's desire? So the things that you put in play then are bubbling up to the surface now to bring truth to the illusion that maybe you've been living in all this time. And the reason for that is because Pluto is direct now. It went into Aquarius in the beginning of the year, and then it went retrograde. So we couldn't resolve the situation. We couldn't get out of its way. Now that Pluto is direct, you're going to find that same situation from the beginning of the year is repeating. And you're not going crazy. It's not regression. It's happening to bring us clarity so that we can move forward. So this is all about a desire to renegotiate relationships. We're going to have a lot of emotional triggers in this energy because when you look at the chart, I'll go back. When you look at the chart, we've got all these planets in the final degrees of signs. Look at all these high numbers, 26 for Saturn, Chiron 24, Eris 25, the sun and the moon are at 28. There's only 30 degrees in a sign. Jupiter, 24 degrees of Cancer. That's a lot of energy at the end of a sign, culminating what took place in those signs. So as a result of that, we have a lot of things that are now coming into a time frame of culmination and ending. New moons are beginnings, but don't forget, we live life through death. That transformation, that metamorphosis that I spoke about in the very beginning, because Pluto is directly talking to the sun and moon here. Pluto is all the transformation and the metamorphosis. In this energy, it's saying what has to die to be transformed so you can live. We live life through death. Bring truth to illusion. And so the karmic curriculum here, the soul's curriculum, is a desire to renegotiate relationships. Not just to get what we want and have a power struggle and all that BS. This is about fairness and boundaries. It's about like the story that I told you about the blue maxi coat. It's about what did that have to do with me being needy and coming home and crying and fussing over something as preteens do, right? What did that teach me? It taught me, don't cry, don't show your emotion. It's going to make somebody angry and you're going to get punished. So that gave me emotional triggers for my whole life. You can't have a relationship if you're hiding stuff. You can't have a relationship if you can't express your emotions. You can, I guess, but it's not going to be a very good one. And when that's not honest and not built on honesty on your part and probably theirs, because now they pick up your energy and don't react to you correctly, that's when the universe will create a disparity, will create a disruption, so that you have to look at that. And on Soul Space Podcast, I speak from my own experience, my own lived experience often, because I really feel that this energy that we're talking about now is really what life is about, in the sense of Libra being our relationship and everything we relate to in order to bring harmony and balance. But Libra itself is not balance. Libra itself is a lot of disruption. It's a lot of control mechanism. It's a lot of avoidance issues that are there so that we can find the harmony. It brings to the surface things that have to be corrected in order to go to a deeper expansion of love. And so in this energy, it's really beautiful that we have that opportunity, but it's also really a need to speak your truth. Because once you see and are aware of how you're configuring yourself in your own relationship with yourself, how do you speak to yourself? How do you treat yourself? Am I denying myself things and therefore not expressing and having that honest relationship with myself? Am I gaslighting myself? So this is a need to speak your truth, not just not to another, in order to try and find the fairness and have boundaries, but it's a need to speak your truth to yourself. Where have you let yourself down? What does your soul really need to evolve? Where does your soul really need to go in order to find what it needs to be healthy and healed and living in joy and peace? So this is discovering who you are through the miracle of connection. And it can be connection in any form. Sometimes we discover who we are when we have children and we relate to them, right? Sometimes we discover ourselves through a job and the way we relate to goals and dreams. But whatever you're relating to, whatever the relationship is, we have a relationship in life with everything. And like I said before, this isn't just about keeping the peace. That's not Libra. People think, Libra avoids things because they don't like conflict. That's not true. Libra avoids things because it's looking for the balance it needs to express. Libra will talk about the elephant in the room as a form of control, because they don't want to they don't want to have to react. They want to respond. That's the balance. But in real life, it's hard to get that. So think about and set intentions for harmony, justice, inner harmony, your relationship with self, our relationship with ourselves. Where are we out of balance? What needs to be renegotiated, not just with others, but within ourselves? Because if we're not honest with ourselves and knowing what we truly desire and deserve, then we can't discover anything through the miracle of connection, because we're disconnected with ourselves. So this is a time for clarity. Whatever it is that comes to mind during this broadcast and what you've been relating to in your life, ask yourself, what am I learning through this dynamic? What does my soul need to evolve? And remember this, the soul doesn't seek comfort. The soul seeks the truth. The soul doesn't carnate into this life to say, I want to get a really nice beach chair and lay by the pool, or I want to go tour the world or go to Monte Carlo. No. The soul comes here to ask, what is truth? What is authenticity? How can I expand love in my life? So I hope that you find this information valuable. If you do, please share it. All right? These aspects are really creating a soul level significance in our life. You may feel the need to release someone during a new moon, and that's okay. Again, just ask yourself, what am I learning through this dynamic? What does my soul need to evolve? Remember, the Libran scales aren't just, about beauty and harmony. Scales also are diagnostic. They weigh things. They show us where we're out of balance, right? Where we're overgiving, under receiving. We talked about being able to receive on the last show. And where are we avoiding truth for the sake of harmony? So remember, when it comes time to speak your truth, do it, even if it rocks the boat. This is a time for clarity, for choosing peace that transforms, not just pacifies. We're all standing at the gates of deep metamorphosis here. Expect moments of discomfort, but also breakthroughs. The universe is asking, are we ready to reset the scales? So if you'd like to journal, like I do, I love to journal. Here's some journal prompts for you. What does balance mean to me? And where am I over-giving and under-receiving? If you want to work with this energy, ritual, light a candle, write down what you're releasing and what you're calling in. You can burn what you're releasing. Do not burn what you're calling in. You want to put it in a place of honor. If you have an altar or if you have a crystal, you want to tuck it under that. Have a conscious conversation. When you're talking to people, really speak from truth, not blame. That's a big one. We all like to, tit for tat, right? And think about beauty as medicine. Libra is all about beauty, like going to the Arboretum or by the ocean or listening to beautiful music or art. Libra heals through beauty. Very important. And when you're thinking about your relationships, you're looking at the boundaries. You're looking at, are these relationships equal and fair? Ask yourself, are my relationships reciprocal? Am I honoring my own needs in this relationship? And from a soul point of view, in the soul space, ask yourself, what contracts am I ready to renegotiate? Where do you really need a change, need a different, journey? You need a different energy. What patterns am I ready to release? So I will leave you with that. Just know this lunation, this new moon, is a very important one. If you want to dive deeper into it, you can book a reading at zenkuda.com. And remember, this beautiful new moon in Libra is a time to choose grace over guilt, clarity over confusion, and evolution over stagnation. So don't let these relationships freeze you in place or stagnate you. We're meant to configure each other to bring us to a higher place of love and acceptance and support in our lives. So I hope to hear from you. I'd love to work with you. If you want to book a reading, you can find me on Zenkuda Official on Instagram, Zenkuda Soul Space on Facebook, and ever feel like the universe is trying to send you a message, but you just can't quite decode it? I'm Georgia from Zenkuda, and I help people like you reconnect with your soul's blueprint through a personalized astrology reading. This isn't cookie-cutter guidance. This is real insight into your purpose, timing, and the energy that's surrounding you right now. Whether you're navigating love, career, or just need cosmic clarity, I'm here to interpret the stars for you. Ready to shift your energy and align with your highest path? Book your reading now at zenkuda.com and let's awaken your inner knowing.